Hello. Welcome to the first episode of Tommi Talks of 2023. I've revamped the show a bit for this year. Essentially, I'm going to be looking at the main things that we've been releasing each month. Obviously, now it's already February, so we're a bit late for the January episode, but let's make the February episode to appear a bit faster then. So there will be 2 to 3 to 4 weeks gap between the episodes, always looking at the most important releases that we made in the period, focusing on why are they useful for you as a Robocorp developer. So kind of digging a bit deeper than just the release notes. To start with, I want to just take a quick overview of a couple of the main things that we released within the January. So let's get going. First of all, Robocorp portal. That's a place where you find, I think, about 100 different example robots, a lot of codes, like thousands of rows of example code. We completely revamped the portal in January. Actually, I think the release was in February. It looks really nice. It has clear logos of main platforms that you want to automate with. For example, OpenAI. There's chatbots like Rasa, IDP solutions like Base64 AI, a lot of Microsoft, SAP, AWS, whatnot. So go have a look, leave us some feedback. We keep on adding robots almost on a weekly basis. So check what's coming up. The latest addition was how to bring control room execution data into Excel using the API. So that's something we added actually this week. Next up, OpenAI came to RPA Framework, which means that there's now a library called rpa.openai, gives you capability not just to the like a ChatGPT style of text completions or natural language completions, but it also gives you the DALL-E image creation API to be used within the robots. There will be more examples about this and more talk about this for sure in the upcoming weeks. So stay tuned. Third, the RPA Assistant. So the attended automation library that we've had and the tooling around it has been massively redone and updated within the last week. So this is 6 days ago only. I will focus on this separately in probably the next show. So make sure to follow, hit the subscribe button to see when new episodes are coming out. What it does is that it gives you completely new user interface elements that were not previously available through the old RPA dialogues library. Way more flexibility. You can build really nice user interfaces and interactions with the attended automations. Overall, remember to follow the updates of robocorp.com. That's where we post all the updates continuously once we do updates in any part of the product, whether it's being control room or the capabilities of robots through RPA framework or the development environments. That's for the highlights of January. Let's focus on VS Code. So in this episode, I'm going to look at the VS Code in detail. And as a reminder, we have 2 ways of developing the robots. We have the VS Code extensions, and then we have Automation Studio. Automation Studio is a up-and-coming platform that gives you the low-code, no-code abilities where you can drag and drop the keywords and build your automations in an easy way, really helping you to get onboarded with our platform. VS Code is fully featured pro development environment based on a couple of extensions I'm going to show you in a second. Really, that's where you should be working today if you're building robots as for the production. VS Code release notes you can find with the tag VS Code, and there's quite a bit of them. So I'm not going to go through them line by line, but I chose a few things that are my favorites from the previous releases. Let's start with code completions. And before that, actually, the VS Code is here, just like a 15-second overview. Install the extensions. You need 2 of them, Robocorp Code, and you need Robot Framework Language Server. So once you have those 2 extensions in place, you're good to go with the development. You can find the Robocorp Code toolbar here helps you to link with the control room, with your vault, and do all the actions like manage your resources and so forth. So really important to keep this view visible when you're working on VS Code. So code completions. There's a lot of it that's been done. I'm just going to show you a couple of examples. Go to the release notes to get the full view of what's been happening. But things like creating if statements, I always forget the syntax. Like I never remember exactly how the syntax goes. But now once you start writing like if here, you will see that there's an if else statement and if statement. So let's do if else statement. So you can see immediately this is the format, this is the syntax that I need to do with the if conditional statement, or the same for the loops like for in range. So it gives you the full syntax of your for loop, or similarly catching the exceptions. So try, except, finally statement gives you the whole logic, and you just fill the blanks in between. It's really handy when it really adds the development speed when you are working on VS Code. Let's delete this. Next up, documentation panel. Again, one of my favorites. You can see that I have the bottom view here. It says robot documentation. You can also put it on the side, or it depends how you want to lay your monitor. I have a super small monitor now in order to get everything visible for you in the video. But if you're working on a big screen, I like to have it on the left and right pane so that I can see both easily at the same time. But the Robocorp robot documentation page essentially gives you built-in documentation of the keywords of the RPA framework and the built-in robot framework libraries. So let's just, for example, click open available browser. You can see that the robot documentation gets updated here, shows you everything that you need to know about it. Let's take some other one. Let's take something with Excel. Read worksheet as table. Everything gives you even examples how to use it. Really handy. Don't need to flip between like a website documentation and the IDE. Staying with the sidebar here of the pane, there's also robot output. That's something really cool once you are debugging and testing your robot. So I'm not going to run it now because we don't want to wait, but I've run it just before I started the video. What you can see is that it's exactly the same structure that you can find from the output HTML, so log HTML. Previously, you would open that into a browser. You need to go between the VS Code and the browser to see how your robot was executing. You can see the red as an error if there's anything going wrong. But now you have the whole thing within VS Code. So in this example, you can, by the way, go back in the runs. So the run tree is the last one. So you can see my for loop that had been executing here, each detail of each keyword, all the way as deep as it goes. This is really, really handy when you're developing. Next up, recording browser actions. In the resources pane here on the side, you've already previously had a capability of adding a new browser locator with using our tool to identify a locator on the website. You've had a possibility to create image-based locators, so computer vision locators, or you've had a ability to create Windows locators using our selector tool or the locator tool. We've added record browser actions, and this is really cool. So what it does is that it opens a small app. It will pop up in a second, like this. And it opens a browser. So let's first navigate to some page. I have the RPA challenge page here, RPA challenge page here in my clipboard. So I'm going to open the page and then go hit record from the recorder. So what it does now is it starts following your actions on the website, whether they are entering data into fields, whether they are clicking the buttons, or waiting for an element, you can record a sequence of actions at once. So you don't need to go one by one choosing a locator and then add it to your code and go back. So this really streamlines your development flow with the websites. Let's hit record, and the first one, I'll move the browser a bit so you can see better. There's a purple bar at the end saying that click to record or right click to wait for element. So let's first create a wait for element keyword with the button, for example. So right click it. You can see on the side in the app that it started recording my actions. Let's go back to that in a second. Then let's add something here. Robocorp, Rolling Company, VP. You can see the purple sidebar saying that, oh, now I recorded something. Email. I'm not going to put it there, no, but let's put my name there, my first name, and then click submit. So now if I go see the recorder, I got wait for element, I got inputs, and I got a click button. And let's stop the recording so I can actually go and edit them. With each of them, you can go and edit the locator strategy. So you can choose between the CSS and XPath. Let's say, for example, in this case, we want to wait for a XPath input that has a value submit. And in this case, we want to wait for something that has XPath. Let's say the label contains company name, like this. I'm not going to do all of them right now. And you can view it as a code. So this is what the code looks like, or you can view it as like a low code way that is familiar from our Automation Studio. In the end, I simply copy the code and I can go and drop it anywhere in my automation that has a browser open. So I could essentially put it here and format it nicely, and I have a series of actions on my browser. And it creates you the locators as aliases here, so you can go back and edit them if necessary. Of course, you can name them better than I did here in the example. I just let them be what they were. That's about recording browser actions. That's also available in Automation Studio, by the way. The last thing I want to talk about is Flow Explorer. You might remember from Automation Studio, there's 3 ways of displaying the code or your project. There's a visual view that gives you the low code drag and drop editor. There's a code view, of course, similar to VS Code. And then third one is the flow view, which gives you an overview of your robot in an easy and visual way. You can drill into the keywords and really easily show how it looks like. And we've been getting really, really good feedback about it, especially when developers communicate with process owners or business owners, like how is the process actually working. It's a really handy tool for that dialogue. You can export the pictures of the flow view. Now we've also brought the flow view into VS Code. So let me show how it works. First of all, you need to open the command palette, which is Control-Shift-P in Windows, something else in Mac. And then if you type in flow, it finds you the Robot Framework Open Robot Flow Explorer. And it opens it in a browser like this. And it displays all the steps. Now, I did my record browser action, so we added these. It's kind of not nice to put them in the main task. It would be better to put them in a keyword, but let them be there. But you can see the for loop here. You can zoom in. You can drill in. Okay, so what happens with each for loop? These steps: setting value by XPath, and then clicking a button and end. That's pretty much it. You can store it there. You can go center. You can navigate back to the main view. Once you're done, you just close your browser. That's all about VS Code today. Now it's your time to go and try, and you can get help in our Slack channel and in our forum. Check the links from our website. The first episode of 2023 is pretty much here. So we covered the portal updates. We were talking briefly about OpenAI. We mentioned the assistant attended automation updates. They will be in focus next. And we got a deeper look at the VS Code updates that we've done early this year. Stay tuned for the next episode. Remember to hit the subscribe button and like this one. And see you soon again. Bye-bye.
Robocorp, where the world comes together to automate.